Welcome to video podcast number 12. I appreciate you joining me. And speaking of appreciation, one thing unfortunately I can no longer do is list name of YouTube users after name of YouTube users, because it's just starting to be too many people commenting, and I don't want to take up my whole entire video podcast just giving shout outs. But starting, I want to say with my next podcast, if I continue to get more Patreon subscribers, unless they want to keep their names private, I am going to give shout outs for people who contribute either through PayPal or through my Patreon subscriber page. Because I definitely, anybody who supports me financially, I for damn sure appreciate you. I appreciate your support. And I appreciate people just coming to my page and my YouTube channel and checking out, my video podcast. Now, I'm going to say this lightheartedly, but it might become serious. I don't know, man. I don't know about this YouTube video podcast thing. Because, again, I just mentioned I appreciate when people support me financially. But one criticism I'm getting repeatedly, not only from just general followers, because most of them enjoy this free knowledge, wisdom, and insight, but more so like close friends and even one or two fellow dating coaches. They're like, man, Alan, you're giving away just too much valuable shit for free, man. I mean, I'm literally getting an email or inbox message like that like every other day. They're like, Alan, I listened to this video podcast, I listened to that video podcast, and you just, man, you just throwing away money, man, because you're giving away so much free shit. And again, don't think that I'm not cognizant of that. I'm cognizant of the fact that a lot of you guys are benefiting from me. Because remember, I used that analogy of, I said there's a lot of people who are listening to my videos who they might have had, say there's 20 pieces to the entire Mode 1 puzzle. And there's a lot of people who've been listening to my podcast, these video podcasts, that might have had 15 of the 20 pieces, 16, 17, 18. And then because of these video podcasts, they're like, oh shit, that's it. That is it. Now I figured the whole thing out. So, I mean, in one respect, I'm happy when that happens, when I'm able to produce a lot of light bulbs on guys' heads. But if they're not paying me for it, then, I like seeing that more when I know that I'm being paid for it. So again, man, I'm going to have to censor myself with some of the golden nuggets of wisdom I drop on you all. Because, yeah, man, again, man, I can't earn a living giving away knowledge, wisdom, and insight and general advice for free. As you know, I went to Los Angeles last week. I had a ball. Went and saw Michael Mann's Heat, the movie Heat. That was my 9th time seeing that in the movie theater. And it was a trip to be in the movie theater with Michael Mann a few seats in front of you. So that was extra cool. Yeah, Michael Mann was in the audience with us. And the movie was as enjoyable as it ever was. I didn't get a chance to talk to Michael. I was kind of disappointing. Like when I flew out last fall to meet Warren Beatty, I actually got a chance to talk to Warren Beatty at a movie screening. We got to chit chat for at least 5 minutes. I didn't get to do that with Michael Mann, but I did get to shake his hand. And I got a new poster. So yeah, it was a great experience, and it's always great, going back to LA. Got a lot of great feedback on my very last video podcast number 11. I mean, I've gotten kudos on most of my video podcasts, but like, I would say with the possible exception of the video podcast number 4, which was about Beta males don't know the true nature of women. This is probably the most kudos I've gotten both publicly and privately on a video podcast. It was video podcast number 11 about looks versus sex appeal and direct eye contact and voice quality. Yeah, I mean, I got an abundance of kudos. But again, I also got criticized because some people said they felt like some people close to me said they felt like I gave away too many freebies in that one. It is what it is right now. So if you missing those morsels of wisdom, because a lot of things I'm not going to spell out like you're a fifth grader. Some shit I'm at least leave it for you to figure it out to at least a little bit. But here's the thing, man. I'm gonna just tell you this, and then I'm gonna move on. I mean, there's a vast amount of knowledge and wisdom and insight I've gained from my many experiences with women. But if someone was to ask me, Alan, what is the starting point? What was like where should I start to allow my own self to learn from a lot of my experiences with women? You know, to combine it with what I've learned from you. I would say if you want to kind of, accumulate a lot of your own knowledge and wisdom and insight to do with women, there's two places you should start. Number one, never make, and I've said this dozens of times, This is a piece of advice that actually applies to both men and women. So this is not just exclusively for men. This actually applies to women as well. So if you women listening to this video podcast, this applies to you too. Here's a starting point to me of just about all of my wisdom. And this should be the starting point for you accumulating all your knowledge, wisdom, and insight. Never, ever, 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 ever make the mistake of confusing the appeal of your sexual companionship with the appeal of your non-sexual companionship. That's to me, the fundamental basis for like 90 to 99% of my knowledge, wisdom, and insight. If I had to root it, if you consider a lot of my advice being the branches of a tree, but you want to know what the main root of that tree is, it would be never confuse the appeal of your sexual companionship with the appeal of your non-sexual companionship. Never, ever. And I would say the second thing is similar to that. The second thing is never confuse compliments with criticisms. Never overvalue the compliments you receive from women. Because the main thing is this, man. A woman could give you 200 compliments. But if that same woman ain't never sucked your dick or given you any pussy, then them compliments don't mean shit. Period. They don't mean shit, man. And see, that's the thing, man. A lot of you guys, a good number of you guys, I think, do realize that by now because I've talked about it so much. But a lot of you, maybe younger guys or more naive guys, just don't get it, man, is that, see, a lot of guys make the mistake of looking at if the appeal of their non-sexual companionship was being represented by, say, a scoop of ice cream, then they look at the appeal of their sexual companionship as also being looked at as scoops. So they kind of look at it as 2 scoops of ice cream in a bowl. But what I'm telling you right now is that the appeal of your sexual companionship and as women is an apple in that bowl, and the appeal of your non-sexual attention and companionship is an orange. Apples and oranges. They're totally different. The appeal, I'll give you one example. Money. A lot of guys I see on message boards, blogs, keep saying that money is the key to getting in a woman's pants and the key to attracting women sexually. No, it's not. I don't give a fuck what any of you guys who keep saying it. That is false. That is false. Money, status, and material possessions, that enhances your ability, that enhances the appeal of your non-sexual attention and companionship. Now, when it comes to your non-sexual attention and companionship, then that's when you get no arguments from me. Things like a nice big house you might own, or a nice fancy car you might own, and other material possessions and stuff, yeah, that will always make women want to spend more time with you non-sexually. Or it even, in some cases, might motivate them to give you some pussy so that they can have access to your financial resources and your material possessions. But when it comes to a woman wanting to fuck you just to fuck you, like because you turn her on, because you get a pussy wet, money ain't got shit to do with shit. Believe me when I say that. Money ain't got shit to do with fucking shit. I done fuck women who had husbands who made way more money than me. I done fuck women who had fiancés and long-term boyfriends that made way more money than me. So if money was the key to pussy, how come those women were fucking me and I didn't have shit? Huh? Think about that. If I'm fucking a woman and her fiancé is a millionaire, but she's sucking my dick and giving me some pussy and I'm making like 30 grand a year, why is she doing that if money is the be-all end-all of sexual attraction? That don't even make sense. I fucked women who had boyfriends who were driving a BMW or a Mercedes or a Jaguar. Shit. The fuck you talking about? So all you guys who keep trying to debate me on that, and that's been going on for years, but I have a number of guys that either debate me directly, or if not, they don't engage me directly. I'll see it in a podcast or a message board. Guys be like, you know, fuck what everybody say, man. The key to pulling women is all about, man, how much money you got. It's all about, you know, how much you've accumulated. Yeah, okay, you keep believing that. Here's the thing that some of you young people don't realize, and even some of the older guys. A lot of your beliefs and attitudes are self-fulfilling prophecies. In case you might be young or ignorant to that term, what that simply means is there's certain things that if you believe to be true, they will be true. And they're simply true because you believe them to. So that's what's known as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if somebody brainwash you with the belief that you can only eat dessert after your appetizers and entree, and that you can't eat a dessert before your entree, then you will continue to eat your dessert after you've eaten your entree. But there's going to be another person in that same restaurant that's eating their dessert first, because they don't have the same belief that you do. And it's just like dating and relationships. I noticed a lot of you guys, like a guy said on one of my video podcasts, he said, Alan, with all due respect, you gotta wine and dine women and take them out to lunch and dinner to motivate women to give you some pussy. You just have to. Man, don't ever tell me no shit like that. If you want to continue believing that, be my guest. I ain't gonna try to stop you. But as far as you trying to persuade me to adopt your belief, that's your belief. That's your attitude. I mentioned in one of my previous video podcasts, just about all the women I've had casual sex with, I've never taken them out to dinner. I never took them out to lunch. I never treated them to breakfast or even coffee. I didn't do shit as far as financially. Matter of fact, I would say starting with roughly 1994, 1995, up until now, I would say no less than 5 out of every 7 women I've had physical sex with, and particularly casual sex with, I had phone sex with them first. That's my main hook. And most of you know that from reading my book, Ooh, Say It Again. That's my main, you could say, hook for, is either talking dirty to a woman in person, or at minimum talking dirty to a woman over the phone. And that's how I got a lot of women in bed. I met them, we exchanged numbers, talked to them on the phone. Once I had them playing with their pussy on the phone, I made them confirm that they wanted me to fuck them. While they were playing with their pussy, I said, tell me why you want daddy to come over. I want you to come over and fuck me. Say it again. I want you to come over and fuck me. Tell me how bad you want me to fuck you. Oh, real bad, daddy. How would you fuck me real bad, daddy? Say it again. Say it again. Say it again. There you go. It's a wrap. Once that conversation on the phone is over, I'm over their place or they over my place and we fucking. That didn't involve no dinner. That didn't involve no movie. That didn't involve no walking in the park. That didn't involve no breakfast, no lunch. So anyway, all you guys kill me when you want to impose your beliefs and attitudes on other people, and particularly somebody who is a professional dating coach. Like, that takes some gall, man, to do some shit like that. That takes gall when you want to impose your beliefs and attitudes and your social programming on me. The motherfucker who's the king of going against conventional wisdom. That's gall. Speaking of gall, man, I got to tease my boy for a few minutes. I got to tease him. And I already teased him privately, so he ain't going to get too upset if I tease him publicly. But I don't know if you're in my Facebook group, you saw where I had an interview discussion with my man O'Shea Duke Jackson, who runs the Negro Manosphere. He interviewed me on Saturday. And now here's the thing. Obsidian, you know I'm good friends with Obsidian. He's a fellow YouTube host, video podcast host. He had mentioned to me that he was going to join O'Shea and I for this discussion. But when he said that, I thought he was just going to be like, hanging out in a discussion and every so many minutes just kind of interject a thought or an opinion or a rebuttal or even maybe a question here and there. But first of all, did anybody watch that video? If you haven't, my video streaming was poor. And that's why I've gone away from live streaming, because until I get my software upgraded, I'm not going to do any more live streaming. Right now, I don't. Matter of fact, anybody who donates to me on my Patreon page, which is below, I have a link to my Patreon page below, and you can always leave public feedback below in the comments section below, as well as you can give me private feedback at YouTube at mode1.net, MODEONE.net, or on my Facebook page. Yeah, I got a rib on Obsidian for a couple minutes. Here's the thing, Obsidian, again, he had told me he was going to, join the conversation. That brash motherfucker full of gall, I just mentioned the term gall, that means you're just audacious, like bold without shame. That's what it means to have gall. He pretty much like damn near took over O'Shea's show. I was just, if you saw me kind of like mildly shaking my head during the early part of discussion, it's because I was tripping. I was like sitting there like, what the fuck? How is Obsidian just gonna come over here and take over O'Shea's show like it's his show? Now, I talked to both of them after the show, and actually they both did say that, I guess that was pre-planned. Yeah, Obsidian first told me that he cleared it with O'Shea, and then O'Shea also told me that, yeah, I guess they had talked it over beforehand. But see, they didn't let me know that. I had no idea Obsidian was going to ask me most of the questions. So I was tripping, man. That was funny to me. It was funny and it was a trip because, see, I'm just going to confess, man. Anybody who was familiar with when I did my Blog Talk radio show, man, one thing about me when I did my Blog Talk radio show, I didn't like anybody over talking me, man. Anybody. Man, if a male or female guest tried to over talk me or talk while I was talking, man, I would mute them so quick, man, their head would be spinning. Like that chick who went after me recently on YouTube, Sophia Nelson, the attorney. I think that's half the reason why she left my interview early. If you go back and listen to the interview, she left it early. She says it was too contentious for her taste and whatnot. But I think at least 1/3, 1/2 the reason why she left early is because she kept trying to overtalk me and outtalk me, and I just put her on mute. I wouldn't let her do it. And I did that with like this other chick I interviewed named Tanya TKO. She came on my show trying to outtalk me. Man, I muted her ass like a motherfucker. And sure enough, she left the interview early. And I did that. Oh, the most interesting one, and I like this woman. Her name is Linda Gross. She's a dating coach herself. Go back and listen to my very last interview with Linda Gross. I got real hardcore with her. She kept trying to out-talk me, basically talk while I'm talking. Because see, I'm the type of person, if I'm having an interview with somebody, what I usually do is I do my talking. Then if I say, ask them a question, I let them express all their thoughts and opinions and commentary. Then I will wait till they're finished. And then I will express my rebuttal to whatever they said. Every now and then I will admit I've kind of cut people off if they said something I just thought was totally invalid bullshit. But otherwise, I give people the respect and courtesy of finishing their thought. But I've had not too many, but a handful of guests on that show that would try to interject shit while I was talking. Man, I told Linda Gross, I said emphatically, I said, shut the fuck up while I'm talking. And she was kind of like, damn. And I made her apologize on there. I said, say, sir, I'm sorry for interrupting you. And she said it. She said, sir, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I said, don't ever fucking talk while I'm talking. So yeah, man, so all that to say that, again, Obsidian did clear it with O'Shea ahead of time. So it wasn't like he was being rude or disrespectful since he cleared it with him. But if I'm hosting any show, whether it's audio, video, both, I ain't gonna let nobody just out-talk me. Matter of fact, speaking of that, and then I'll get off this subject, I don't know if you remember my early days on Blog Talk Radio, but when I first started on Blog, it was like a 2-month period in January and February, I think, of 2008 that I actually had a female co-host. What was her name? I think her name was Tennille. Yeah, this young lady, she lived in LA. Her name was Tennille. I had like a regular co-host for my show. And truthfully, 80 to 90% of the reason why I had to dump her is because on certain episodes, she would try to out-talk me, man. I don't like nobody trying to out-talk me, man. That's why a lot of times when people invite me to a lot of group discussions, sometimes I'll participate, but other times I'll respectfully decline. Because I don't like all that talking at one time. Now, if I'm in a group discussion and people are kind of taking turns talking, like when they get to me and they say, Alan, what's your thoughts? And I talk and everybody's silent while I'm talking until I finish, then cool. I don't have problems with that. But if I'm in a group discussion and everybody's just kind of talking over everybody, no, man. I don't like that shit at all. No. No, most of the time, man, I would just fade out of that conversation. If I happen to be involved, I would just quietly hang the fuck up and let everybody else do their talking. Because I'm not gonna tolerate that, man. Again, that's one of my pet peeves, man. I don't like people trying to out-talk me, over-talk me, constantly interrupting me in a rude and or disrespectful manner. I don't play that shit. Anyway, speaking of O'Shea Show, I hope this will be my final comment on this. It should have been a long time ago. But the main subject matter was supposed to be alpha males versus beta males. And even though we ended up digressing into a few other subtopics when I was on Obsidian's show. I mean, see, Freudian slip. I said Obsidian show. I meant to say O'Shea show. But because essentially Obsidian was the host, it felt like it was Obsidian. I thought I was on his Blog Talk Radio show. But on that show, since that show, and even before that show on Saturday, people keep sending me feedback with their disagreements of my use of the term alpha male and beta male. Here's what I say. Here's what I say. If you don't like the terminology I use, create your own terminology. For that matter, I'll take it a step further. If you don't disagree with any and everything I say, as far as my beliefs, my attitudes, my principles, my philosophies, here's my invitation. Write your own motherfucking book and put out to the general public for scrutiny. Write your own motherfucking ebook, paperback, or hardcover so the general public can scrutinize your shit. Okay? That's what you do. if you have all these fucking philosophical disagreements, particularly with my terminology, write your own shit and define your own terms. That's what I say. You know, like I already mentioned in the previous video podcast that I know some other dating coaches that don't really use the terms alpha male, beta male, other than occasionally. Like again, if I had to mention at least 2 or 3, Ron Wills, he uses those terms occasionally, but he mainly uses select versus non-select men. Steve Dean Williams, he uses alpha male and beta male quite a bit, especially in recent years. But when I first met him, he hardly ever used those terms. He would just call men or males. That was his main terms, men or males. And David X, he uses alpha, beta here and there, but generally he calls men leaders or followers. So if you want to attach your own unique terminology because you don't like how alpha and beta sounds, then do that. Do that. Ain't nobody stopping you. But don't try to persuade me to stop using it, because I'm going to always use those terms. And I don't give a fuck what you think if your opinion about those terms are different than mine. Do I look like I give a fuck about what your differences are with me? Okay? And if any of you men out there don't think that there's a difference between men, in other words, you not only just have a problem with the fact that I use the specific terms alpha and beta, but you generally are trying to assert that all men are equal, yeah, you keep believing that shit. You keep believing, as I already alluded to, that all men got to take women out on 3 or 4 dinner dates before they get the pussy. You keep believing that shit. Matter of fact, go ahead and write a book saying that. The 5 dinner date way to get in a woman's pants. If that's your true firm belief, then write a book about it and say that. And trust me, there are other books out there that do say that shit. But you ain't gonna never read that shit in my book. Cause I don't need to take a woman out to dinner to fuck her. I don't need to buy a woman lunch to get her to suck my dick. I hate to keep bringing up my infamous story over and over and over again, but it's my most infamous same-day seduction story. But do you guys realize that you are listening to a guy who got his dick sucked in a grocery store? Think about that. I mean, I want that to really sink in with you. I had a woman literally roughly 10, no more than 15 minutes after I met her. Not only was she sucking my dick, she was sucking my dick in a public grocery store. I had another woman who sucked my dick in a stairwell of LAX airport about 10 to 15 minutes after I met her. So why would you ever expect me to give you advice that's along the lines of take a woman out to dinner and bring her flowers and take her out to lunch and treat her to a movie? Why would you ever expect me to say some shit like that when I'm a motherfucker who had a woman close down a gas station minutes after I met her so that I can fuck her? You know how many times that I've met a woman and fucked a woman in less than an hour after I met them? I mean, I got stories out the yin yang of women that I fucked. I got stories of women that I fucked in less than 2 hours after I met them. I got stories of women I fucked in less than an hour after I met them. I got some stories where I fucked a woman in less than 30 minutes after I met them. And I got other stories where I either got my dick sucked or I fucked a woman in less than 15 to 20 minutes after I met them. So given my experiences along those lines, no man on this earth is going to be able to convince me that what I have to do is treat a woman to breakfast, lunch, or dinner as a mandatory prerequisite for having sex with a woman. And see, that's one reason why I separate between alpha males and beta males. That's you naive beta males who believe that shit. That's how I categorize you guys. All you guys who believe in conventional social programming. I don't adhere to the social programming that most motherfuckers on earth adhere to. My thinking is way outside the box. You heard the term think outside the box? My thinking, when it comes to seducing women, my way of thinking is way out the motherfucking box. Way out the motherfucking box. I mean, I go one step further, and I mentioned this before on Blog Talk Radio, so this is no secret. Not only have I had sex with women quickly, man, now I know some women listen, this is going to raise their eyebrows or even make them frown. They're going to be like, oh my God, that's disgusting. But I'm going to go ahead and put it out there because, again, I've said this on Blog Talk Radio. You listening to a motherfucker that's had sex with a mother and a daughter. How many motherfuckers you listen to on YouTube can tell you that? I've had a woman's daughter sucking my dick right in front of her mother and vice versa. Now, that ain't happened to me 100 times or even 50 times, but trust me, enough times. I've had sex with sisters. I've had sex with cousins. I had a woman in Los Angeles. I think I mentioned this on Blog Talk Radio before. I had a woman in Los Angeles used to fuck. She invited me to fuck her younger sister. How many times have you had that happen in your life? Where an older sister invited you to fuck her younger sister. So I'm not necessarily saying that to brag, although realistically just a little bit. But I'm saying that to let you know that my way of thinking about hooking up with women sexually is different than probably 99 or even 99.9% of the guys walking planet Earth. I don't believe in none of that conventional shit. Anything that's considered basic or conventional, polite, all that shit, I don't buy into that shit. That's for you all to do. If you all want to do that shit, buy into that, those beliefs and attitudes and social programming, hey, again, be my guest. But that ain't how Alan Roger Currie rolls. I'm a bold, brazen motherfucker, man. I'm a bold, brazen motherfucker. I'm going to tell one more story, then I'm going to shut up about my personal seduction stories and whatnot. Here's how bold and brazen Alan Roger Currie is, and I've talked about this, I think, on Blog Talk Radio. I've had women suck my dick with their boyfriends in the fucking next room. Yeah, you heard me right. I've had women sucking my dick while their boyfriend, fiance, or husband was in the house or apartment with us. How fucking bold is that shit? Now, I'm sure some other motherfuckers, I've ran across at least a handful of guys who said they've had the same experience, so I know it's not just me. But yeah, man. One was a woman I used to fuck with. I think that's the story I told on Blog Talk Radio one time. It was a woman I was fucking, then we stopped seeing each other, and she invited me to her girlfriend's party, and I thought it was because she wanted to reconnect with me, but she was trying to rub another guy in my face, her new boyfriend. And without getting a long story, while I was at the party, I looked at her dead in the eyes, and I said, I need to talk to you. And she gave me a look like really? Like right now here? I said, I need to talk to you. So I pulled her in her girlfriend's room, in her bedroom, and we start off just talking. But one thing all guys know, particularly ladies, man types, womanizer types, you know, once you fuck a woman multiple times, there's many women who you can put what I call your stamp on that pussy. You know what buttons to push to fuck her again if you're in her presence. It might be a certain way you kiss behind their ear, kiss them on their neck. Maybe certain words and phrases you can whisper in their ear. But you know what buttons to push. I refer to that as having a stamp on that pussy, is when you know the right buttons that are going to work. And with this particular woman, I knew certain shit to say to her and do to her that would get her pussy almost immediately wet. And anyway, yeah, man, I fucked her mouth right there at that party in her girlfriend's bedroom. Fucked her mouth, came in her mouth, and then told her, I said, yeah, why don't you go give your new boyfriend a nice, juicy tongue kiss so he could taste my dick. And I know some of you motherfuckers like, damn, that was hardcore. That's cold-blooded, man. That's fucked up, man. Yeah, it is fucked up. Now, I've said as I've gotten older, I actually don't do that type of shit no more. I don't think I've done that type of shit in most of my 40s and now that I'm in my 50s. But shit, when I was in my 20s and 30s, man, I was like a cold-blooded assassin when it came to seduction and fucking women, man. Shit, I didn't have no mercy for nobody, man. I didn't give a fuck if a woman's boyfriend was upstairs while I was in the basement with his wife or fiance or girlfriend sucking my dick. I didn't give a fuck. Shit, man. And that's how I know the delineations between alpha males and beta males. I know the shit. I know the shit that I've gotten away with. And I know the shit that if you were to develop backbone and big ass balls and just not give a fuck, the type of shit you can experience. It ain't like the shit that I've experienced, the shit that I'm the only man on earth that's capable of experiencing that type of shit. Like I said, I've already interacted with guys in my life who I'll share stories with, and they'll tell me stories that's similar to mine. I'm like, damn, your story's just like mine. They be like, yeah, man, I done did the same shit. But there's other motherfuckers out there, usually the guys who come to me for advice, not only have they not experienced shit I've experienced, but they didn't even know that shit was possible. But I'm telling you, everything's possible when you think way outside the fucking box. Everything's possible when you think way outside the fucking box. Shit. Like, before I really got into phone sex, I didn't think you could have 4 women on the phone playing with their pussy at the same time. I had not 1, not 2, not 3. I once had 4 women. 4 women on the phone playing with their pussy for Alan Roger Currie. They were all in the same house, but they were on different phones. They were on the same phone line, so it wasn't like a 3-way call. They were just on different phones in the same house. It was kind of a girlfriend get-together. Anyway, that's a too long story to get into. Oh, I got good news. This is good news. This is a good week for me. This is an exciting week for me. Now, a lot of times when people would ask me, Alan, how far is your reach? Sometimes I lightheartedly say, I'm international, bitch. I'm international, motherfucker. I'm global. Well, actually, starting with probably 2010, well, really before that, I think I began to have fans, followers, and supporters in other countries in addition to the United States. But I think what really blew up my international popularity was when I spoke in London in November of 2010. And then I worked with a guy in Amsterdam that same year. And then in 2013, I spoke in Berlin, Germany. Matter of fact, speaking of Berlin, Germany. But here's the thing. Most of my fans, followers, and supporters from other countries, I'd say 95% of them have been men who were bilingual. So they spoke their own native language, and in addition, they spoke American English. But beginning this week, I have, and I already announced this on Facebook a few weeks back, but for those who don't know, I have a German translation of Mode 1 coming out on Wednesday, 2 days from now. Wednesday, my German translated book, so it's going to be all in German. So that means guys who only speak German, who don't speak both German and English, but just speak German, will be exposed to Mode 1, if they haven't already. I think some of them have been already. Same with Portuguese. Yep, I'm coming at my Portuguese version comes out on Thursday of this week. So you got the German version that comes out on Amazon.com on Wednesday all over the world. And I got a Portuguese version that comes out on Thursday. And then on either Friday or Monday, I have a Spanish version. Now, technically, which I don't like this won't be the first time a Spanish version of my book has been produced, because a few years ago, I had some of my followers let me know some guy down in Mexico took it upon himself to translate my Mo 1 book into all Spanish. Now, I didn't make that big a deal of it because he wasn't charging for it. He was basically giving it away, which I still didn't really appreciate, but at least he wasn't trying to make money on my shit. But, you know, I'm going to just quickly, you know, I think most of you know how publishing and that type works. You know, anything I write is my intellectual property. Okay? So for all you kind of shady shyster type motherfuckers out there, you can go ahead and test me if you want to. But trust me, I will have a team of lawyers on your ass so quick. I've already, do you know, just in the last couple of years, I've had 10 YouTube videos taken down, like within a matter of 48 hours or less. I had YouTube videos taken down. Like I had one guy, man, bless this guy's heart. This one guy had a YouTube video where he had an entire chapter from one of my audiobooks on YouTube. Like I guess he somehow recorded my recording, my audiobook. And like, I want to say he had like chapter 6 or something from my Mo 1 audiobook on YouTube, just on there for people to listen to. I saw that, I'm like, what the fuck is this dude doing? So of course I reported it to YouTube as copyright infringement, and they did their job. It was taken down like in less than 24 hours. They had that shit down. But man, it actually has, that type of stuff has happened more from people in other countries than it has from people in the United States. So I will defend most people in my own country, not all, but most people. I haven't had too many instances of blatant copyright infringement from other people in the United States. But people from other countries, man, I've had a lot of people just try to blatantly be infringing on my copyrights, man. My shit is copyright. All my shit's copywritten. So for those of you aspiring authors, like I noticed that some people will produce an ebook and they don't copyright that, man. See, that's a mistake. I don't know why. Now, when you publish a paperback or a hardcover, you have to. It's not even an option. You have to copyright. But ebook is actually optional. You don't have to copyright an ebook. But for all my authors out there, aspiring authors, you better. Because that's how you prove that you were the first one to come up with an idea and that someone is stolen your shit. Like if I write an ebook and I don't copyright it and say somebody else basically steals most of my material and puts it in different words, I can't really complain about that. Because I don't have anything to prove that I came up with that idea first. But, you know, when you copyright shit and then you read somebody else's book that's using terminology that you know you created yourself, or using terminology that's very similar, then yeah, if you want to take it as far as a lawsuit, I can sue people and say, hey, because like, for example, my Mo 1 books, I gained my first copyright in 1998. Yeah, like, so for Mo 1, I have 4 different copyrights. I got a 1998 copyright. I got a 1999 copyright. I got a 2006 copyright. I have, for my audiobook, I got 2014 copyright. And for my most recent newly released version, updated version, I got 2017 copyright. So there's 3 types of ownership. If I had to go on a little tangent here about ownership, and I know those of you who are not content creators or authors or that type of thing probably don't care about this shit. I'm not going to take too much time with this. But yeah, there's 3 types of things you get for ownership. There's copyright, trademark, and patent. Copyright, trademark, and patent. Like I have some stuff in my books that are both. I don't have anything that's patent. Patent, that usually relates to an invention. Like if you invented some new device or some kind of system. Or like I'll give you an example of patent. There was a big war just a few years ago, like 2, 3, 4 years ago, between Apple and Samsung. Because Apple accused Samsung of stealing their cell phone technology, their patents. See, like, I don't know if most of you know this, but like, if I'm a technology company, and Apple comes out with the iPhone. I can't just borrow their technology. I can't use their exact same technology and then just come out with a phone and call it the Allen Roger Currie cell phone. That's an infringement on Apple's patent. Even if I give it a different title, if it has the exact same technology, that's an infringement on their patent. So that's why with most technological items, there has to be at least a little bit of difference in terms of the actual technology. Otherwise, you're infringing on people's patent. So that gives you a general description of patent. Trademark would be, let's say my last name was Allen Roger McDonald, just like the fast food place McDonald's. Let's say my last name was McDonald, and I wanted to open up a restaurant, and since my last name was McDonald, I say, okay, I want to open up a restaurant called McDonald's Restaurant. See, I couldn't just do that. Even though that's my last name, believe it or not, I couldn't just open up a restaurant and call it McDonald's. I would have to first clear it with the McDonald's franchise for potential to clear myself of trademark infringement. Because most companies, when they have like the title of their business, their logos, certain like slogans or taglines that promote their business, all that type of shit is trademarked. So you can't infringe on somebody else's trademark unless you clear it through a court of law. Like most authors who have copyrights technically don't necessarily also need trademarks, but I actually have some terminology, like certain phrases and terminology in my books that's not only copywritten, but it's trademarked. I'll give you one: the 4 modes of verbal communication. Yeah, that phrase that's an Allen Roger. That's not only copywritten, that's trademarked. So nobody else who writes a book, if they were to talk about verbal communication, they can't call their shit the 4 modes of verbal communication. Because I would slap them with not only a copyright infringement lawsuit, but I would slap them with a trademark infringement lawsuit. And all my shit's copywritten. Now speaking of that, I got be a little nitpicky here, I'm not gonna say petty because I don't think it's petty, but there was 2 guys, man, that and these guys were friends of mine. These people were people I knew. Well, one was a friend and the other was just an acquaintance. But I know when there's multiple dating coaches, it's inevitable that some of their beliefs, attitudes, and philosophies are going to cross. They're going to be similar. Even if they're worded differently, they're going to be similar. So I'm not naive to that. But still, you can't just like blatantly rip people's shit off. Matter of fact, if you rip somebody's shit off word for word, that's called plagiarism. Like if somebody rips you off like verbatim, literally meaning word for word, that's plagiarism. I'm not gonna say these guys' names, but my longtime followers, I think you know who both of these guys are, because both of them were guests on my show. But I had one guy who I considered a friend. He came out with this ebook a few years ago, and I'm not gonna say his entire ebook was just basically a variation of my shit. But he had at least 2, I want to say, let's say he had 9 or 10 chapters in his book. At least 2 of his chapters was pretty much as close to a blatant ripoff of my shit as possible. And I told him, man, I was like, dude, you can't just be ripping my shit off like that. The fuck are you doing? And he thought by giving me a shout out and an acknowledgement in the foreword of his book that would make things cool, man. But I was like, dude, man. Cause see, this is somebody I had mentored, man. See, a lot of people don't know this. Not only do I mentor just regular guys, I've actually mentored other dating coaches. I can name at least 4 or 5 other dating coaches that I've mentored them. At least 3 international dating coaches that I've mentored them. They did like consultation sessions with me. So, if I've mentored you and I've given you a piece of my mind, a lot of my knowledge, wisdom, and insight, You can't turn around and put that in a book and try to make money off of that shit. The fuck are you doing, man? Then I had another guy, he was on my show. This guy, I wouldn't consider him a close friend or anything, but he was a fan of mine, which he did give me a lot of props in his book. He came out with this ebook. Bless his heart. And he acknowledged in the foreword of his ebook that I was his mentor, that he loved, that my book had changed his life. So, of course, I was appreciative of that. But it's funny, man. I'm reading the ebook and I'm like, this book is essentially just mold one in different words and language. He just essentially took my book and changed all the terminology, changed all, the wording so that it wasn't plagiarized, but it was essentially my motherfucking book. And I had to tell him, I said, dude, man, what are you doing, man? Sure enough, he brought bad karma to himself, because I don't know if a lot of you guys remember this old site. It got shut down, but it's called PUA Hate. And I didn't like most of the guys on there. They were just haters. And most of them didn't like me either. But it was funny. Man, when he came out, this guy I'm talking about, when he came out with his ebook, people trashed his ebook. Everybody on PUA Hate was like, this shit is just like mold one. Damn, this dude just ripped off Alan Roger Currie. This shit's mold one. So I didn't even feel bad for him because that's how I felt. I was like, damn, this dude just ripped my shit off. So here's the thing, man. This will be my final point on this point, and then I'll move on and then I'll wrap up. But look at the burger industry. You got McDonald's, you got Wendy's, you got Burger King. Now, what do all three of those fast food places sell? They all sell burgers. So none of those places could have a unique trademark on hamburgers. Because hamburger, that's a universal sandwich. You can't trademark a hamburger. But what you can trademark is the way you prepare that hamburger. Didn't know that, did you? Yeah, you can trademark that. You can't trademark the burger itself. But for example, McDonald's can trademark the Big Mac. So no other hamburger place can sell something called the Big Mac. Burger King could trademark the Whopper. So no other fast food hamburger place can sell something called the Whopper. I think Wendy's, I don't know what their signature sandwich is. I think it's the double cheese. Well, no, that's not unique enough. You can't trademark something called a double cheeseburger. I don't know what Wendy's signature burger is. But even Wendy's, they have their own unique style. Like, for example, in terms of preparation, Wendy's uses fresh ground beef. McDonald's, their main emphasis is on how quickly they give you the burger. And Burger King's, theirs is flame broiled burgers. So they each, you see how they're each uniquely different? And that's what I always ask my clients. Like, when guys come to me and they start bringing up other dating coaches, number one, I'm going to say two things on this. Number one, and David X said this when we spoke in London together. I know a lot of you guys like to do this, and I'm not going to prevent you from doing it, but I'm going to just give you my advice. There's a lot of guys who will follow like 3 different dating coaches, 4 different dating coaches, 5 different dating coaches, 6 different dating coaches. In many ways, that's not a good thing to do. I mean, it's not necessarily detrimental, but in the short run, I would say it's not too detrimental, but in the long run, because inevitably, one dating coach is going to say something that contradicts the other dating coach. That's just inevitable. And see, then you're going to be stuck wondering, well, whose advice is more valid? Because Alan said this and this dating coach said that. So one of the things David X said when we were in London together, he told the guys in the audience, because there was a lot of different dating coaches at that event, the Direct Dating Summit event in London. And he said, all of us are going to have things that are worthwhile to listen to, worthwhile knowledge, wisdom, advice. But he said at the end of the day, you have to decide whose advice resonates with you the most. Whose knowledge, wisdom, advice, and insight resonates with you the most. And that's how I feel, man. Because I already mentioned this in one previous video podcast, so I'm going to mention it again, man. If there's one thing that chaps my hide, man, is when I have clients or followers that'll come to me and say, hey, Alan, I like when you said this, this, and this, but hey, this one other dating coach said you should do this, this, and this. So what do you think? Man, I don't give a fuck what that other dating coach said. My attitude is either you take my advice or you don't. But don't try to always be constantly contrasting and comparing someone. I already told you at the beginning of this video podcast, man. Don't nobody think exactly like me. Like you take, for example, like the biggest criticism, I think I already mentioned that I usually get from other dating coaches. They always say, if I have a client who's following 2 or 3 dating coaches, those other dating coaches, like I had one guy show me an email where this guy, other dating coach, said, if I was you, I wouldn't listen to Alan Roger Currie because he encourages guys to talk dirty to women too quick and just talk about sex in general too quickly after he meets the woman. And he was like, I wouldn't do that because that's dating suicide and all that. I had a guy who I interviewed on my Blog Talk Radio show, a guy named Paul Janka. He said that while I was interviewing him. He said, Alan, you bring up sex to women like in the first conversation? I said, hell yeah. He was like, oh, I would never do that. That's dating suicide. And a lot of dating coaches have said that about me when they give other people their thoughts on my approach. I don't give a fuck. I know what works for me, and I know what works for most of my clients. So I don't give a fuck what another dating coach thinks about me talking dirty to women in the first conversation or talking about sex in general in the first conversation. I don't give a fuck. Another thing, going back to that hamburger analogy, and I think I said this already in one of my previous video podcasts. In my opinion, when a follower of mine asks me about following another dating coach, I always say, if you're not going to follow me and you're going to choose to follow either another dating coach instead of me or in addition to me, I always say, find out what their like signature style is. Similar to, again, like the Big Mac is McDonald's signature hamburger. The Whopper is Burger King's signature. What's their signature philosophy? I truly believe for you to call yourself a credible, legitimate dating coach, you should have at least one thing about your advice and your philosophies that's only unique to you. That not 100 other dating coaches are just repeating the same thing. That you are either the only one giving that advice or at minimum you were the very first one to give that advice. Like mine, again, is talking dirty, man. Before I came out with Mode 1, didn't nobody had no book out about talking dirty to women in the first conversation. And if you suggesting that I'm wrong in saying that, I would invite you to show me the book and show me the copyright of another dating advice book where somebody emphasized that. Now, again, I would never say I was the only guy on planet Earth that talked dirty to women, and even the only guy on Earth that was talking dirty to women in the first conversation. But as far as books go, I would go as far as say I believe, and again, I might be wrong. Somebody can prove me wrong. I invite you to prove me wrong. But I don't remember any dating advice book that came out before 1998 that emphasized talking dirty to women in the very first conversation. Most books that, if they did mention talking dirty, they usually talked about talking dirty to women while you're in bed with them, like while you're fucking them. But I don't recall any book before Mode 1 that's centered on talking dirty to women in the very first conversation or highly emphasized having phone sex with women before you fuck them. So there's a lot of advice I give, but that's kind of my, you could say what I feel is my signature piece of advice. It's stuff related to talking dirty. And speaking of that, I'm going to use that as a segue into some of the stuff I wanted to talk about. Damn, I'm almost at an hour already. Well, I don't mind. Shit, y'all used to my long ass video podcast by now anyway. Now I will say this. That one video podcast I did that was only 15 minutes long, which was my shortest one to date, man, that accumulated a lot of views quickly. I think even O'Shea Duke Jackson told me he was tripping off that. Man, that video, so I will say shorter videos, I think, must attract more views in a shorter period of time. Because like most of my longer videos, it's taking like a few days or even a few weeks for me to cross 2,000 views or 3,000 views or 5,000 views or 10,000 views. Man, when I did that 15-minute video podcast, that motherfucker had like over 20,000 views in less than 24 hours. It had over 20, let me repeat that. It had over 20,000 views in less than 24 hours. I think one reason why I was talking about my international following, speaking of O'Shea Duke Jackson, one thing he mentioned, he said, Alan, we were talking about the Negro Manosphere because, as you know, I write articles. Matter of fact, I had an article came out today. Matter of fact, I'm going to touch on that article before I wrap up. But he was telling me, he said, Alan, man, he said, I got to give you your props, man. You're one of the most unique writers I have on the site. I said, in what way? He said, most of my other writers on the Negro Manosphere probably, most of their views are either United States views, or for those writers who live in another country, the views come from their native country. He said, your views for your articles come from all over the world, like almost a whole bunch of different countries. And I was like, it kind of surprised me, and it didn't surprise me. It surprised me specifically to do with his site, but in general, I can't say it surprised me because, yeah, I do. If I say so myself, I have a very large international following. I have followers in just about every major country in the world. And that's why I wanted to have my books translated because, yeah, I have fans and followers and supporters in literally just about every major country in the world. Matter of fact, I had a guy one time, this tripped me out. This guy did an interview with me from Guatemala. This was some years ago. And he said, Alan, this might blow your mind to know, but he said, if you were to ever come to Guatemala, you would be treated like a king. And I said, really? I said, that's very flattering for you to say. He said, no, really. He said, in Guatemala, your name is on the same level as like Tom Cruise or Denzel Washington or any major entertainment celebrity. And I was like, really? He was like, oh, yeah. He was like, you're like considered a major celebrity in Guatemala, man, because of your book Mode 1. And I was just like, wow. So yeah, I have a large international following. But one of the things I want to talk about today over the next, I'm going to try to keep this to no more than another 30 minutes. I'm going to go back to that. Oh, first I got to take my intermission break. Vitamin Water Zero, baby. Ha ha. I love this stuff. I love it. Oh, man, I got a quick story. I was mad, man. Went to the store just today to get some more, and they were out of my favorite flavor. Shine. It's called Shine. Strawberry lemonade. Pissed me off. Since this is going to go so long, I might not do a second one this week. So, sadly, this might be my only video podcast of the week, but I'm not sure. I'll keep you posted. Now, I was teasing Obsidian about how he took over O'Shea's show on Saturday. That still cracks me up. If you notice, if there was one little, disagreement Obsidian and I have, because a lot of times on a lot of things, Obsidian and I usually think alike. But as with anybody, I mean, I don't think there's any person that I agree with 100% of everything they say. And I doubt if there's any person living who agrees with 100% of anything I say. So there's always going to be, even with your close friends and relatives, I talked about that in another video podcast, you're always going to have some disagreements. But one disagreement we had, that Obsidian and I had, was about the definition and description of a cuckold. Because Obsidian said that the only time a man is a cuckold is when his wife has deceived him. Like she's either deceived him about cheating on him and or deceived him about giving birth to another man's baby. And I actually disagree with Obsidian. I said, no, in the BDSM world, people in the BDSM lifestyle use the term cuckold much differently. They use more of a slang version of cuckold. And see, here's my argument, and Obsidian can continue to disagree, but you really can't argue with people's slang usage of any word. You can legitimately argue with people and debate people on the formal, what's known as the formal definition of a term. But as you know, there's a lot of terminology we use in society that's considered informal definitions, or what's generally known as slang vernacular. Once a term takes on a slang variation of its definition, you can't really argue with that. It is what it is. You take the term bitch. The formal definition of a bitch is a female dog, a female canine. Now, obviously, men and women use the term bitch in all kinds of different ways, informally, as slang. So if somebody defines the term bitch differently than the way I use the word bitch, I can't really legitimately debate them on that because they're using it in a slang form. You can't, I mean, I'm not going to say you can't debate them. You can if you want to, but it's almost an act of futility. So, yeah, that's one of the things I was trying to get across with Obsidian, is that he was trying to debate me on the slang usage of cuckold. But again, technically, you can't debate the slang usage of cuckold. The slang usage of cuckold is what it is. And again, the slang, again, to reiterate, in case you don't remember the definition, the formal definition of a cuckold is a man whose wife is cheating on him and he's like the last one to know. And even more specifically, if a man's wife, fiance, or girlfriend cheated on him and got pregnant by another guy, and then he chooses to raise that other man's son or daughter as if it's his own. That's the formal definition of a cuckold. In the BDSM lifestyle, the informal slang variation of cuckold is any man who is what's known as a bottom. Now, a lot of you might be not familiar with BDS terminology. In BDSM world, there's 4 types of sexual personalities in the BDSM world. There's what's known as a top or a dom. That means you like to be the erotically dominant partner 99.9% of the time. On the flip side, there's what's known as a sub or a bottom, which means you like to be the erotically submissive partner 99.9% of the time. And then kind of in the middle is what's known as a switch or a flexible. A switch would be if you had one sex partner that you're totally dominant with and you had another separate sex partner that you're totally submissive to. If you had one of each, that would make you a switch. A flexible or a versatile, is when you vacillate back and forth with the same exact sex partner. So if I was married and say 2/3 of the time I was the dominant sex partner and 1/3 of the time I allowed my wife to be the dominant sex partner, that would make me a flexible or a versatile. So going back to cuckold, a cuckold number 1 is a bottom, a sub or a bottom who likes to watch their wife, fiance, or long-term girlfriend get fucked by other men while he jacks off. Now, Obsidian said in our debate, he said, no, I don't call that a cuckold. I call that just a threesome. Now, that's different from a threesome. A conventional threesome is when it's, say, 2 men and 1 woman or 2 women and 1 man, and everybody's kind of on the same level. So if it was a 2-guy, 1 woman threesome, both the guys would be on the same level. Like, in other words, not one man is dominating the other man. That would be a threesome. But when you have a bull, cuckold, hot wife arrangement, the bull not only dominates the hot wife, he dominates the cuckold. That's why they're called cuckolds, because cuckolds, they like to be dominated. They're not only submissive, they're what's known as masochistic. Masochistic means you like to be verbally humiliated and disrespected, and even in some respects physically humiliated, and have people like paddle you and shit. You know, that's a masochist. So again, and anyway, the reason I bring that up related to what I want to talk. Oh, before I move on to what I want to talk about. Hey, my face, you notice I'm always touching on my face when I'm, see, now one guy said it was because my chair had dust in it, or foam, I should say. He said it had foam, but I'm sitting in a different chair and I'm still, because I know some of you probably like, damn, Alan's always touching on his face, his eyebrows, his eyelashes, his cheeks, his chin, his nose. I know some of y'all won't believe me, but I hardly ever do that when I'm not doing a video podcast. I hardly ever touch my face during the day. But whenever I start doing these video podcasts, I always feel the need to like something's on my face. Anyway, I had a guy write in the comment section. It was a lighthearted comment, no big deal, but some of you guys kill me with your feedback, both public and private. But this guy said something to the effect, I don't have his comment in front of me, but he was like, one of the females who posted on one of my video podcasts referred to me as Daddy Allen. And he like tripped on that. He was like, damn, you actually have women that call you Daddy Allen? I had heard you say that about yourself, but I didn't know women actually called you that shit. Like even my fellow dating coach, I'm going to call him out, Steve the D. Williams. He tripped on me one time on Facebook. I had some women calling me Sir and Daddy Allen, and he wrote some lighthearted comment like, dang, Allen, you got it like that, man? Women calling you Daddy on Facebook? Man, see, I told you, I always joke that I try to keep my ego in check, but sometimes my ego inevitably finds its way to come out. Man, let me tell y'all something, man. I'll tell you this quick story. I think I've told this story on Blog Talk Radio before. I had an ex-girlfriend. That when I first hooked up with her, I told her, remember, what was that? What was that podcast? I did a video podcast where I was talking about that verbal seduction story #1 in Ooh Say It Again. And I said there was this woman I was fucking who referred to herself as my obedient good bitch. And I said ever since she used that term, I started using it with other women. Well, speaking of BDSM, anytime I have a BDSM sub, that's what I refer to them as. Not only do I refer to them as my obedient good bitches, but even more so, they refer to themselves as my obedient good bitch. So this ex-girlfriend of mine, she didn't believe that. She thought I was just being egotistically full of myself. She said, oh, Alan, you're so full of yourself. Talking about you got a bunch of women across the country that call themselves your bitch. Yeah, right. Ain't no woman gonna refer to herself as a man's bitch. Get out of here. She like literally didn't believe it. I just was like, okay. I didn't try to convince her then. I just was like, okay, if you say so. So sure enough, a few weeks later, I'm at her place and I had my laptop open while I was asleep. And her nosy ass went and looked at because I had my Facebook page active on my laptop. And normally I make sure I shut my laptop down before I fell asleep. But we have just got finished fucking and I just kind of spontaneously dozed off and fell asleep. So my laptop was open And she went into she was nosy enough and bold enough to go into my Facebook inbox messages. But now, normally I would be pissed that somebody, even a girlfriend of mine, goes into my Facebook messages. But in this instance, I was almost glad she did. Because since she thought I was just being full of myself and thought I was lying, she was blown the fuck away. It was so funny. She couldn't believe it. She was like, damn, Alan. Actually, she called me baby. She said, damn, baby, I didn't know you said you had it like that. But honestly, she said, honestly, baby, I thought you were just hyping yourself up. I didn't think you had it like that. But she said, you got all these hundreds of Facebook inbox messages with these women calling you sir and daddy, and they sign it with your obedient good bitch Linda, or your obedient good bitch Tanya, or your obedient good bitch Michelle. And I said, so you thought I was just making that shit up for kicks? Why would I do that? Why would I just make that shit up? And she said, I don't know. I just thought you were being egotistical. I said, I got subs all across, not only all across the country, even a handful internationally. I got women who refer to themselves as my obedient good bitch. I got them all over, dude. If I showed y'all guys some of my emails and inbox messages, some of y'all more naive ones, y'all would be blown the fuck away. Y'all would be like, what? Damn, this motherfucker's a straight up pimp. Dude, I got BDSM submissives everywhere. Every major fucking city. Believe that shit. Anyway, here was the point I was going to make related to me and Obsidian disagreeing on the term cuckold. We were talking privately after that show. We was chopping it up on the phone. We chop it up a lot on the phone. And first I was teasing him about him wanting to debate me about cuckold. And then I told him he was pedantic. And in case you never heard that term before, pedantic, pedantic. What that means is if a person is pedantic, that means they're really nitpicky and really meticulous on the definitions of words and terms. So if you're a type of person that it like irritates you when somebody doesn't define a word or a term in the way you feel like it's supposed to be defined and described, that means you are pedantic. And I told him, and I'm going to tell you guys today, I'm going to tell you something, a term that I'm really pedantic about, that just chaps my hide. And that's the term player. Here's what I hate, man. I hate you motherfuckers who do this. I hate, like, I'm not going to say this person's name. I know, speaking of City, he likes to call people out by a specific name. Unless somebody has really offended me or came at me wrong, I don't like to really necessarily call people out by name unless I have to. But there's another popular YouTube host who actually was talking about some of his friends being players, but he followed that up by saying that they don't like to publicly acknowledge that they're players because they got different women that they're fucking and they don't want those women to know that they fucking other women. Let me say this as emphatically as I possibly can. Motherfucker, you are not a goddamn player. Believe that shit. You ain't no motherfucking player. Get out of here with that shit. Oh, man. Remember I told you guys I used to post on this site called AskMan.com between 2002 and 2005, 2006? Well, actually, I was telling Obsidian, I didn't go to that site and start posting immediately. What I did is I checked out the message board on that site for like almost a year before I started posting. I just used to go and read the shit that people were saying in relation to dating relationships. And actually, the very first thing that made me start posting was when I saw all these men and women describing a player as someone who lies to women, deceives women, misleads women. And I came on that board emphatically and said, that is bullshit. That is not a fucking player. Motherfuckers might call themselves a player, but that ain't no player. Ask any true street pimp if that's a player. I dare you to, and see what they say. I guarantee you, they're going to straighten you up just like I'm straightening you up now. If you a motherfucker that calls yourself a player, but you lying to different bitches, you ain't no motherfucking player. You ain't never been no player. You are a lying womanizer. That's what you are. You're a lying womanizer. What women refer to as a dog. That's what women call a dog, a lying womanizer. In other words, if you say right now are fucking 5 different women, and each of those 5 women think that they're the only woman you're fucking, then you're not a player. That again, you can call yourself a player, but you are in true street terms, you are not a player. You are no fucking player. A player is a motherfucker that's fucking 5 different women, and each of those 5 women know he's fucking other women. They may not know the names of the women he's fucking. They might not know the faces of the women he's fucking, but they know he's fucking other women. Like, I'll use myself as an example. Starting with roughly the age of 22 up until now, and I'm 54 now, anytime I've had multiple lovers, those women knew I was fucking other women. They knew I was fucking other women. I've never been one of those guys who was fucking 3 different women and making each of those 3 women think that they're the only woman I fuck. That ain't no player, man. That ain't no pimp either. No pimp operates like that. A shady ass pimp might operate. I don't know any true credible street pimp that lies to women and pretend and cheats on them behind their back. That's half the reason why I wrote Mode 1. Is because I got tired of seeing that in my college days. A lot of my own close friends were guilty of that, and frat brothers were guilty of that. They would be fucking like 3 different women and making each woman think they were the only one. You ain't no motherfucking player, you doing that shit. I say this, not that you care about my respect per se, but if you call yourself a player around me and you tell me how you roll, dude, I'm going to tell you directly to your face as I have my closest friends and other people in my life. I'm going to tell you, like I did that at a speaking engagement in Chicago. This motherfucker tried to say he was a player, but yet he admitted that he was lying to all the women he was fucking. I looked him dead in his eye. I said, motherfucker, you ain't no player. Why you even fooling yourself by thinking you are? As a matter of fact, they got testy. This motherfucker, I think we almost would have came to blows if it would have got a little bit more contentious. But yeah, I told him that straight up. I said, you ain't no motherfucking player. A player ain't got a lot of no woman, man. He ain't got a lot of no woman. A true player never has to lie to a woman. I don't have no respect for motherfuckers who cheat. And I know some of y'all might perceive that as me coming across as kind of self-righteous in that regard, but I don't, man. I don't respect motherfuckers. That's one of the reasons why I wrote Mode 1. See, here's the thing, man. A lot of guys think Mode 1 is about just another creative way to get pussy. And that's where you're totally wrong. That's where you're totally fucking wrong. Mode 1 is specifically about seducing women into having sex with you, and even I would say most prominently casual sex with you, without lying to them, without misleading them, without manipulating their emotions, without getting them drunk or using drugs or anything else that's, damn, I got the hiccups. Excuse me. I'll tell you one article to read that relates to what I'm talking about. Or really 2 articles. Well, really all my articles, but 2 in particular. Read the article that got published today, where I distinguish between sex based on emotions and love, sex based on lust, sex based on transactional, business transactions, on basically money for sex, and forcible sex like rape and date rape. And then read another article, a past article of mine, that's called Yes, There Are Ethics to Getting Laid. Matter of fact, I've gotten maybe more feedback on that article from a lot of men and even a few women than arguably maybe any article I've written on the Negro Manosphere. But yeah, I wrote an article on the Negro Manosphere. It's called Yes, There Are Ethics to Getting Laid. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're just looking to get laid, period, it ain't like there's one way to get laid. I mean, honestly, it ain't like there's one way to get laid. You can get laid. There's probably at least a half a dozen different ways to get laid, if not more. For example, you can lie to women and get laid. You can get a woman drunk and take advantage of her sexually. You can make a woman think you want to be her next husband or next long-term boyfriend and then fuck her and then dump her. There's multiple different ways to get laid. So if all you care about is just generally getting laid, then you shouldn't necessarily be following me. Mode 1 is specifically, and I emphasize this, being mode 1 with women is specifically about getting laid by being bold, upfront, specific, and straightforwardly honest with women about your desire to get laid. See, like, there's a lot of pickup artists who teach men to get laid by essentially pretending, if only for a few hours or a few days, like they're not trying to get laid. To me, that's the dumbest thing in the world. That is just the goofiest thing in the world. That's like going in a restaurant and trying to eat food by pretending that you're not there to eat food. That don't even make sense. Or going to a grocery store to buy groceries, but you spend a few minutes pretending like you're not there to buy groceries. I mean, who the fuck would do that? Who the fuck would go to a car dealership and try to pretend like they in a dealership not to buy a car? That don't even make logical sense. But yet men do that all the time. A lot of what they call these indirect types. There's a lot of guys who literally, that's what they teach. There's other dating coaches and pickup artists who will teach guys the best way to get laid is to initially actually act like sex is the furthest thing from your mind. Man, that is so fucking stupid. I can't tell you how ridiculous that sounds in my ears. I believe in getting laid by specifically and straightforwardly looking a woman dead in the eyes and letting her know you want to fuck her. Period. I don't believe in talking about no bullshit. That's why if you read my original Mode 1 book, one of the first things I say, matter of fact, it's literally the very first, I don't know if it's the first thing I say in my new version of Mode 1, but in my original ebook and my original paperback, the first statement I make in chapter 1 is, I hate trivial small talk. Man, let me tell y'all something. Y'all, those who have interacted with me personally, like either face-to-face or at minimum over the phone, I'm sure you know this about me, because anybody who knows me in real life knows this about me, for better or for worse. Man, I hate trivial small talk, man. I mean, oh, when it comes to anything related to conversation skills and interacting with others socially, man, dude, ooh, it ain't too much I hate more, man. And this is not even just exclusively women. This is men too, man. Here's how deep it goes with me. My own brother, again, you know, I love my brother to death. He's my blood. My own brother has gotten pissed at me at times because he'll call me on the phone and he'll start talking about like general shit, and I'll be like, dude, what are you talking about? It'd be like, dang, dude, I can't call my own brother and just like, you know, chit chat and chop it up. And I'll be like, dude, man, I mean, yeah, and he you know, sometimes he's actually been hurt by that. I mean, most of the time it's lighthearted, but there's been at least a handful of times he got hurt that I didn't want to. Dude, I don't like anybody calling me to just chit chat. I never do that with people, like ever, like literally ever. And that goes back to my early 20s. I never, like, you know how some people will call you, they might call you like a friend of yours and they just be like, so like, Brian, like, you know, what's up? Like, you know, how you been, man? Like, you know, what's going on? What's up? I don't ever do that. I swear to God. I mean, like, there might be like 0.01% of the time I've done that in my entire life. If I call you or contact you, it's because I have something specific to ask you and or something specific to tell you, or if we're about to do something like plan an event together, I'm calling you to work out the logistics of that event or whatever. But I never, ever, 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 ever call somebody and be like, hey man, what's up, Tyrone? Like, like, what's up? Like, how you doing, man? Like, what's been happening, man? Like, how you doing, man? That ain't me, man. And like I said, sometimes that has hurt some of my close friends and even relatives, man. They've gotten hurt by that quirk of mine. But I just, man, I don't like small talk, man. I like very focused conversations. I like conversations that are about something very specific. Something that's important and or specific. But if it's just kind of rambling, like just all over the place, let me stick to just women. Here's my thing with women, man. And a lot of women say this comes across as harsh or mean, but I don't give a damn. If my dick has not been in a woman's mouth or pussy, or there's no definite indication that it's going to go in her mouth or pussy, I don't give a fuck about shit a bitch got to talk about. Period. And I'm not even being lighthearted about that. I don't care about nothing to do with her past. I don't care about the funny story to do with her neighbors. I don't care about the interesting story to do with when she took her dog to surgery. I don't care about where she went to college. I don't care about none of that shit. I don't give a fuck. If me and a woman ain't fucking, I don't give a fuck. Period. I don't. And that's one of the reasons why, like a lot of dating coaches will say, oh, you should talk to a woman for at least a half hour to develop rapport with her and, try to build Man, no. I talk to a woman for one reason only, to get her pussy wet. Period. To get her pussy wet. That's my only objective in talking to a woman, excluding conversation with women that I might be doing business with or something. But if we're talking about women that I'm attracted to, that's my only singular focus when I'm talking to a woman, is I want to say something to her that's going to get her pussy wet. Number two, the only thing I care about is finding out if she's on the same page as me. Basically, if she has the same sexual desires, interests, and intentions as I do. Other than those two things, I don't care about shit, man. I can't emphasize it enough. I don't care about shit a woman talking about. Like, if I know for a fact that a woman doesn't want to give me some pussy, I don't want my conversation with her to last more than roughly 5 minutes. And that's real fucking talk. I ain't into no 10, 15, 20, 30, 45 minute, hour long conversations. No. Once a woman gives me some type of verbal indication that she really ain't feeling me sexually, I want that conversation over no later than the 5-minute mark. I don't want to be talking to no woman about no fucking general bullshit. Fuck that shit, man. I don't care about that shit. And again, I'm even like that with men, dude. I mean, sometimes every now and then I'll excuse it, like if I'm at certain parties hosted by friends or something. But man, generally, man, I don't like dudes talking to me about just shit I don't care about. I mean, like I hurt some of my followers' feelings by that. Like there was this one guy, he was from another country. And he would write me every day and he would say, hey, Alan, how's your day going? How you feeling today? In the first week or so, I would answer. I said, I'm doing fine. And he would send me what he thought was very interesting and or funny articles that he found on the internet. And finally, man, I had to tell him after about 2 weeks of him doing this, I said, dude, man, don't write me no more, man. He was hurt. He was genuinely hurt. He was like, really, are you serious, Alan? I said, dude, man. I told him, I said, man, it's nothing personal, but I said, dude, man, I ain't trying to read a whole bunch of just general shit from you on a daily basis, man. I said, you literally send me something every day, man. And 90% of the shit you send me, I don't give a fuck about, man. And I hated to come across men like that, but that's just how Alan Roger Currie is, man. Don't be sending me no bullshit that I don't give a fuck about. Like if I let you know that I have a fascination with chicken wings and you send me articles about chicken wings, I'm not going to mind that because I've already put it out there. That's an interest of mine. You know, or I was just talking about Michael Mann, the writer, director of the movie Heat. If you know I'm a Michael Mann fan and from time to time you want to send me articles related to Michael Mann movies, I'm not going to get pissed at that because I've already put it out there that that's something I'm interested in. But if you send me an article about rollerblading in Brazil and I've never expressed that I even have a remote interest in anything to do with rollerblading in Brazil, then my attitude is, why the fuck are you sending me that shit? I mean, seriously, why are you fucking sending me that shit? I don't want to read that shit. See, here's a free tip I'm going to give you. And I think most of you probably know this or figured this out. But you want to know one of the reasons why I like to talk about sex with women so quickly in my first conversation with a woman? Most of you think is solely and specifically to identify the women who do want to give me some pussy. No. Believe it or not, this is going to surprise some of you. That's more so maybe my number 2 or even my number 3 reason for talking dirty to a woman and bringing up sex so quickly. The number 1 reason why I bring up sex quickly is more so to quickly identify the women who don't want to give me any pussy. Let me repeat that. The bigger reason why I talk about sex so quickly and straightforwardly with women in my first conversation with them is not so much to quickly identify the women who do want to give me some pussy, but it's more so to quickly identify the women who don't. Let me give you an example. If you put me in a room, remember I always use these examples involving 10 women in a hotel conference room. If you put me in a hotel conference room with 10 women and it was predetermined that all 10 women were interested in definitely having sex with me, believe it or not, I wouldn't go into that room and immediately start talking about sex. Most of you probably would think I would, but I wouldn't. Because I already know those women want to have sex with me. So I wouldn't feel any like rush or sense of urgency to talk about sex. If I was in a room with 10 women who I knew for a fact, it was a factual knowledge that they all wanted to have sex with me. Now let's change it. Say you had me in a room with 10 women and it was predetermined that 4 of those 10 women definitely wanted to have sex with me, but 6 of those 10 women did not want to have sex with me. See, that's when I'm going to bring up sex very quickly and straightforwardly with all of them. Why? Because I want to quickly weed out those 6 women who don't want to have sex with me. It's not so much for identifying the 4 women who do, but it's for identifying, again, that's more of a secondary emphasis. The primary emphasis is for me to identify the 6 women who don't want to give me some pussy. Like, I'm going to ask you this question. For those of you who prefer to engage in lengthy episodes of small talk and fluff talk and entertaining conversation, what if you were talking to a woman who is a lipstick lesbian? In other words, a woman who looks like a very feminine heterosexual, but deep down she's a lesbian. How would you identify that shit? Who would you talk about to identify that? What if a woman was married and it just so happened she didn't have a ring on her finger? She forgot it at home. How would you find out if she's married? If you're doing all this fluff talking? If you're a black man and you're talking to a white woman and it just so happens this woman has no interest in dating or having sex with black men, she only wants to date or have sex with other white men, and you doing all this fluff talking, how would you know? How would you find that shit out? Ooh, excuse me, that was a burp. If a woman's a major prude, like say she's not into sucking dick at all, she only likes to have sex in 1 or 2 different positions, and you talking to her for an hour doing all this fluff talk, I mean, how would you find that out? And again, the just general simple question would be, if you're talking to a woman that is trying to give you the misleading impression that she has some degree of romantic and or sexual interest in you, but deep down she doesn't, that's what I refer to as a manipulative time waster, how would you know? How would you identify her if you're doing all this like small talking and fluff talk? How would you find that out? So you learn something that you should have been paying money for, but you learn for free. See, the reason I talk about sex is twofold. It's not just singular, it's twofold. I use sex talk and erotic dirty talk to both identify the women who want to give me some pussy, and just as much, if not more so, the women who don't. I don't want to be talking to a woman for a half hour to find out after 30 minutes she ain't interested in me sexually. I don't want to talk to a woman for 2 hours to find out at the end of those 2 hours that she ain't interested in having sex with me. I don't want to take a woman on 2 or 3 dates and find out at the end of the 3rd date that she ain't interested in having sex with me. Now, some of you other guys, if that's how you roll, more power to you. But Alan Roger Currie don't roll like that. Ideally, I want to know by no later than the 5-minute mark of my first conversation with a woman if she's interested in me fucking her or not. Now, there's been instances where it took a little longer than that, but generally speaking, 5 minutes is my ideal mark. I would say absolute longest 15 minutes. That's my absolute longest. Why do I arrive at the 15-minute mark? If you remember one of my previous video podcasts, I said studies and surveys among sexologists have shown most women know no later than roughly the 15-minute mark if they're going to have sex with you. They might be indecisive on when they're going to have sex with you for the first time, in what context, such as long-term versus short-term, or monogamous versus non-monogamous. So they might be indecisive on those 2 points. But as far as just generally, if they find you sexually appealing, most women know that by no later than the 15-minute mark of their first conversation with you. So why would I want to talk to a woman for more than 15 minutes? Why? Why? Knowing that most women just love to talk to be talking. Most women just love to yik-yak, man. They just love to talk to sometimes just to hear themselves talk, or just so they can get flattering and entertaining attention from you. I ain't trying to allow a woman to use me for flattering and entertaining attention. Fuck that, man. You can do that. And while you doing that, I'm going to pull in the bathroom and have her suck my dick. And I'm going to come in her mouth. That's what I'm going to do. So you can do all that 2-hour fluff talking with her. But after you do that 2-hour fluff talking, I'm going to talk to her for 5 minutes, and I'm going to have her bent over somewhere, and I'm going to be fucking her in the ass. Fuck all that small talk, man. I don't need to know anything about a woman before we fuck. Now, after we fuck, I'm all ears. After me and a woman fuck at least one time, I'm all ears to hear all her funny stories, more about her biographical information and all that shit. You know, that's when I'm willing to listen to a woman and, you know, truly learn about it, particularly if I might be looking at her as girlfriend material. But before we fuck, don't give a fuck. Don't give a shit. Don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I need to know at minimum that a woman is definitely interested in having sex with me. Even if we don't have sex, like say that date. Now, I'm not saying I always have to have sex with a woman the same day I meet him, so I want to clear that up. I'm not saying that. It might be a week before we fuck. It might be 2 weeks before we fuck. So I'm not saying I have to fuck that very day I meet the woman. But what I am saying, I need to know the very day I meet a woman that she's at least interested in fucking. That's what I need to know. She may not agree to have sex with me that same day or even that same week. But I'm saying by the end of my first conversation with a woman, I need to know that she's at least interested in us having sex with each other. If she doesn't even give me some type of verbal indication that she's interested in fucking, I'm done with her, man. I'm done. I'm done. You other guys might keep on persisting, but for me, Alan Roger Currie, I'm done, dude. Now, see, a lot of dating coaches who criticize me will say, If you use Alan Roger Currie's Mode 1 method, you're going to get rejected quickly. You're going to get rejected within the first few minutes. So? See, that's the problem with a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys are scared of rejection, man. I don't approach women with this attitude like, oh, please don't reject me. Please, please, please don't reject me. I approach women with attitude like, I dare you to reject me. I dare you to fucking reject me. That's my attitude. When I approach women, I don't have no underlying attitude of, please, please, God, please don't reject me. I'm a nice guy. I'm a good guy. Please don't I don't have that attitude like some of you other motherfuckers out here. I look women dead in the eye, and my underlying attitude with women is, if you ain't interested, you ain't interested. If you gonna reject me, reject me. I said that when I spoke in New York, and it raised a few eyebrows. I told guys, I said, I love abrupt rejection. And a lot of guys were in the audience like, what? That sounds crazy. Why would any man want to be rejected quickly and straightforward? I love being rejected quickly and straightforwardly. Love it. Again, I already said the reason why. I don't want to go on 3 or 4 dates with a woman and get rejected. That's when I end up feeling pissed off, is after I've invested a significant amount of time and money in a woman only to be rejected. If a woman's not interested in having sex with me, I want to know that no later than the 15-minute mark of my first conversation with her. Preferably no later than the 5-minute mark of my first conversation with her. But yeah, I approach women with attitude like, I dare you to reject me. Think about it. Think about if a woman approached you. She looked good, nice tits, nice ass, pretty smile. And she came at you with attitude like, I dare you to tell me you don't want to fuck me. Think about if she had that cocky attitude like, I dare you to tell me you don't want to fuck me. I know women who do maintain that type of attitude when they deal with men. Like, they'll give you just a look that says, I dare you to tell me you don't want some of this pussy. Well, if you're thinking about it from a female end, turn that around on yourself. That's the attitude I have with women, man. Again, man, rejection don't scare me, man. My attitude is either a woman wants to give me some pussy or she don't. Ain't no in between. Either she wants to give me some pussy or she don't. Period. But I ain't going back to that 10 women in a room example. Again, if there's 4 women in that room that are interested in having sex with me and there's 6 women in that room that are not, why would I want to waste 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 75 minutes, 90 minutes talking to any of those 6 women who are not interested in giving me any pussy? Why would I want to do that? Even if I end up fucking the 4 women who are, why would I want to invest all that time talking to those 6 women who have no intentions of giving me any pussy? Why would I want to do that? Why would you want to do that? Tell me. Explain to me like I'm a 5th grader. Explain to me, using that analogy, why you would want to waste time talking to those 6 women who don't want to give you any pussy. Well, Alan, I might be able to persuade one of those 6 women. I think if I take them out to dinner a couple times and spend some money on them and act real charming, I think I might be able to change their mind. Okay, you keep thinking that way. And you keep going on wasting motherfucking time. But my attitude is, if you think that way, why the fuck you listening to me right now? That's what I want to know. If you really genuinely think that way, why are you listening to me, Alan Roger Currie? Why are you listening to me right now? Because I don't think that way. So right now, you wasting your time listening to me. Speaking of the movie Heat, which I love so much and I saw for the 9th time in Los Angeles last week, I already mentioned in a previous video podcast, one of my favorite lines from that movie is when Al Pacino tells his confidential informant, today, you wasted my motherfucking time. Don't waste my motherfucking time. That's all you need to know about how Alan Roger Currie thinks, man. Don't waste my motherfucking time, man. If you're going to talk to me, get to the point. Whatever it is you want to ask me specifically or tell me specifically, you get to the point. But don't be telling me about a bunch of shit that you know I don't fucking care about. Hey, Alan, I was water rafting in New Zealand, and there was this like kangaroo, and it was so funny. Like the kangaroo was hopping up and down. Why would you think I would care about that shit? I don't give a fuck about no kangaroo in New Zealand. That ain't got nothing to do with improving the quality of my life. It don't have anything to do with improving the quality of your life. So anyway, let me see if anything else I got to talk about. Just to sum it up, man. My final two thoughts of this. On the subject of honesty versus dishonesty, again, I want to reiterate. Mode 1 is not just about getting laid. Mode 1 is about, you could say, getting laid with honest ethics. I'm all about honesty, dude. I don't believe in cheating. I don't believe in none of that shit. I don't understand why people who know they have promiscuous and or polyamorous tendencies. Damn it, King. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Hiccups. Or that was more like a burp. I don't understand why you men and women who have promiscuous and or polyamorous tendencies want to get into a relationship or a marriage and pretend like you monogamous. What the fuck is that about? What kind of low character, low integrity shit is that about? I know deep down the reason why is because you're using that person. Like a lot of women do it because they're using the motherfucker just for his money and his material possessions. They ain't trying to be faithful to that motherfucker. I already told you in a previous podcast how many women I've been their other man. Come on, man. Come on. I've been so many women's other man, it ain't even funny, man. I know the real deal on women, man. Women get in phony relationships and phony marriages all the time, man. Anybody who knows, who's in the know, knows that shit. Some of y'all better wake up. Just for a few weeks, just wake up. All this cheating and shit. And I've told some of my closest friends, like guys I'm like this with. Some of my closest friends, the ones who I know they've shared with me that they be cheating on their wife all the time or cheating on their girlfriend all the time. Man, I be blasting these motherfuckers. And again, these are friends of mine. But I tell them all the time, I say, man, I don't respect cheating. I don't respect cheating. I don't at all, man. To me, lying is so cowardly it ain't even funny, man. If you gotta lie to your wife, lie to your... Again, this goes back to my original thing about the player, man. If you got a lot of women, you are no player, you are no pimp. You could call yourself that, but nobody who's truly in the streets, who knows about them terms, is going to respect you as a player and or a pimp if you got a lot of women. I don't lie to no women, man. The fuck? Here's how brutally honest I am. This is kind of funny, actually. I just mentioned in this video podcast that I've kind of become tame in a lot of ways. But I had a former fuck buddy of mine. We were talking recently. And she said, Alan, you used to have a serious ego. I said, I know. She said, you used to number us. That used to crack me up. You would number me. Like you would tell me, Felicia, you're my number 4 fuck buddy. And I did. I actually did. There was a time, man, whenever I dealt with like multiple, like say it was 5 women I was fucking at the same time. Not only would I fuck with multiple women, but I would rank them. Like I would tell one woman, you're my number 1 fuck buddy. I would tell another fuck buddy, you're my number 2 fuck buddy. I would tell another fuck buddy, you're my number 3 fuck buddy, and so on. Yeah, I literally used to do that. Matter of fact, in regards to more so my phone sex partners, women I was either just having phone sex with or a combination of physical sex and phone sex. This moment reminded me of this just a few months ago. I used to, man, you could say my ego was out of control. I don't necessarily look at it as egotistical. It's just how I am and how I roll. Man, I used to send out these mass emails to my phone sex partners. You know how in college sports they'll have what's called the Associated Press top 20 rankings where they rank the the college football teams and the college basketball teams. So each teams know if they're ranked number 1 in the country, number 2, so on. I used to do that with my phone sex partners through email. I literally used to do that. I would send out an email and I would show the women where they were ranked in my mind. So one woman 1 week would be my number 1 phone sex partner. Another would be my number 2, all the way to 20. I would rank my top 20. Now you would think the women I would send out this mass email to would be pissed about it. They loved it actually. I had 1 or 2 that would sometimes be pissed because I didn't have them ranked as high as they thought they should be ranked. But most of the women who I sent it out to, that's why I didn't mind doing it, because they didn't get pissed off or anything. And if they did, I wouldn't have gave a fuck. But yeah, they enjoyed it. But yeah, I did that. Probably from 2000, 2001 all the way up until about 2008, 2009. I used to do that like 2 or 3 times a year. I would send out these top 20. It would be labeled Alan Roger Currie's or Daddy's top 20 phone sex partners for the last 3 or 4 months. And yeah, I was a trip. I am a trip. But anyway, so I'm all about honesty, man. I'm about, most of the time, brutal honesty. I don't believe in lying to women. I don't believe in cheating on women. I believe if you got multiple sex partners, you tell those women you got multiple sex partners. That's the mold one way. That's the mold one way. If you got, like right now, like I'll give you a quick example, then I'm gonna wrap up because this is going on 2 hours now. But I had a client, former client of mine, write me, tell me, hey Alan, man, I met this woman at this club and I told her directly I wanted to have sex with her. I feel so proud of myself. I'm mode 1, and I'm thinking, he really telling me some good news. But then he follows that up by saying, man, I just hope my wife don't find out. And I was like, dude, you cheating on your wife? And he's like, oh yeah. I was like, then motherfucker, I ain't willing to help you. I don't help motherfuckers cheat on their wife or fiance or girlfriend. Is that what you think mode 1 is about? It ain't about helping a motherfucker cheat. I don't respect cheaters. You ain't mode 1 if you cheating on somebody. So anyway, and then my second emphasis of this is I hate small talk, man. I hate small talk. And the reason why you shouldn't engage in lengthy episodes of small talk is because, if for no other reason, what you're going to do when you run across women who are manipulative time waster types, you're just going to end up wasting a lot of time, and in some cases, time and money, chit-chatting with a woman who's never, ever, ever going to give you any pussy. Manipulative time wasters, man, if you're a naive, sexually desperate, financially generous beta male type, do you honestly think a manipulative time waster is going to reject you from the get-go and tell you from the get-go straightforwardly that she ain't trying to give you no pussy? Hashtag for today is get to the point. G-E-T, then the number 2, then the point. Get to the point is the hashtag. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll probably talk to you again next Sunday or next Monday. Take care.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
You're the king, Alan.